law enforcement is so much more valuable than people give them credit for. Just their presence, even if they're not doing anything, to somebody who has just an inkling of, hey, you know what? I have enough ego and narcissism in my life where I don't want to spend any time in jail, so I'm not going to rape that woman because there's a cop nearby. So sometimes a cop just being in the area has saved so many people from harm.
And all the defund the police rhetoric from the left and the Democrats. It's just, how do they think this is going to end? And is it intentional? Do they really believe what they're saying? Or are they just grifting for votes in order to get into people's black hearts that seem to have holes in them that need to be filled constantly?
You need to read Karl Marx's book. You really should pen through it. You'll see that the process is being executed by people who are trained Marxists.
Mm-hmm.
Say, by the way, Marxism is one of the most evil, quickest transitions into full-blown communism. It is not a good thing. There has
No,
never there has never been a Marxist regime that has ever not caused genocide.
no,
Never.
there hasn't. Not one, not even in Cuba, which is probably the best form of communism that we've seen. And I have relatives that were in Cuba, so I was in Cuba when Castro was still in power in the late 90s when I was
Oh
in
my.
college. And, you saw the poverty. I mean, it wasn't as miserable as the Soviet Union, but it definitely wasn't Napa Valley, California, or Santa Barbara,
The wonderful fortress that is the United States of America. I say fortress because it has a spiritual protection it's waning, it's disappearing, but it has been. I mean, when you go into a war-torn area or a place that has war, you can feel it in the air. Everybody there exists differently. And then when you leave that, which some people refer to them as shitholes, and I happen to agree with that statement. But when you leave that and you come back to the United States, as soon as you land in America and that door opens up and you smell America, you can smell it. You
Mm-hmm.
can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't been in those areas where those people that are surviving looking over their shoulder, they're oppressed, they live in fear, they live in these tiny fine line templates so that they don't get murdered, so that their children aren't raped, so that their kids aren't abducted, and somebody doesn't come and take their house and finances because it's nice looking. If you haven't lived there, you have no right to challenge the way America works. If
Yeah.
you challenge the way America works, pause and go to China and live there for 6 months, or go to Cuba, live there for 6 months. Go to Somalia if you dare. You're brave enough. You got some nuts, and go ahead and try living there for 6 months. See how well you do. You even
Mm-hmm.
go to some place which is a country that I happen to love, which is South Africa. Go to Johannesburg and live there for 6 months. And then when you come back with the understanding and experience of what reality is, now look at America and you really look in the mirror and say, do I want to change that?
Well,
And
the
it's
answer obviously is no for anybody who's been there who is not dead set on destroying America. And, I've been to most of the places that you've named. I've been to 60 countries and I lived in 7. And,
you're
I
amazing.
was that.
You're amazing.
No,
That's
I haven't
incredible.
done nearly what you have. I'm just saying that in terms of the fact that I have some experience that you're talking about, but not at the same level. Like I've been in shithole countries. I was in Syria
Oh,
right before everything blew up, and I went with 2 other people, went deep into the desert, and I was treated exquisitely well. I mean, we went into Bedouin tents, and the children there were so excited to see me because they had never seen a white person with green eyes. So they were just like they were at first scared, and the moment I started to play monster with them, just chase them around and play monster. But they warmed up to me. But this is the middle of the Bedouin tent, and I have nothing against these people. I was treated beautifully, but I was the only person there without a gun, and they were just shooting birds out in the middle of the desert. That's how you wake up in the morning, just with the fire and just mass numbers of birds just piled up. And it's not a place that you want to go back to because you realize how great America is after you leave there, and I believe that Americans have to travel to gain an appreciation. And I believe that with people being ever more isolated and being able to be by themselves playing video games all day, we lose that affinity for being with other human beings. And we think that we can be by ourselves, and we are no longer responsible to a larger social dynamic in order to survive. So I think that that technology is changing human impetus and the equation as to behavior. If I'm with you in person, I have to give you respect. If I'm with you on Twitter, I can type whatever the hell I want. And it's a very different. And then people take that in, and it does change the dynamics of society, unfortunately, which is part of why we're seeing this deterioration, as you say, in the American spirit.
Well, it's a virus, and the cure is experience outside, abroad. And you know, like I said, there's a tremendous evil in lots of places, and if you haven't seen it, it's easy to pretend it's not there. And you just go to Walmart and buy what you're going to do, and just say, "Oh my God, that's terrible. I wonder if I can send some money to help those poor kids." So you give them $10, and your conscience is clean, and you go on to go to Dairy Queen. But the reality is this is coming here, and pretty soon we're going to be in a situation um, that I honestly can't describe and not weep. Um, I've lived it. I've been there in these places, and I was so proud to come back to this country. And the thought that we may actually reduce to that level, it breaks my heart more than I can express, and not weep. It's
Fortress of America
unbelievable.
is being burnt down from the inside by those who call themselves woke and compassionate, who are just lighting everything on fire.